Hello, and welcome to another Captivate Secret Hack session. My name's Gary. I'm one of your hosts. I'm the head of design here at Captivate, and this week we're going to be taking you through another Danny special. It seems we're going to take you through a bunch of new, well, not new features, but some features that, if you've been on the Secret Hacks before, you'll know that these sessions are based on questions that we often get either at events or through on support, and it's not necessarily anything that's that's broken, but people say, how do you do this cool thing in Captivate? Because my friend does this cool thing, or I've seen somebody do this, or wouldn't it be cool if you could do this feature? And we actually we've got this workflow already nailed. So that's the point of these sessions. If you've been here before, then welcome aboard. And on this month's session, it's all about your links. So going over the features, a bit of a summary about all the different types of links within Captivate, attribution links, how to rock and roll with those, and some best practice, etc. Why you should use your custom domain along with your links, using a bit of Amy, some dynamic content with your links, your single promo link analysis, and then how to optimize your single promo page. So all around getting your stuff out there with the correct links, and then how to analyze that stuff so you can improve and grow your listenership, etc. So my co-host, the guy that's going to be doing the Danny special, is Danny, of course. It's our head of podcaster support and experience, is Danny Brown. How are you, dude?
I'm good, thank you. I think it'd be pretty funny to get someone else to do it and still call it a Danny special.
Yeah,
and see if anybody actually picks up on that.
Exactly, yeah, you've read my mind. I was going to say, when it's my turn to go around next, I might just do a Danny special.
That sounds like something you could buy on a Saturday night after you've had a couple of pints and you're on your way home. Up at the old chip shop, get a Danny special.
Oh, that's going to catch on, mate. For defo. That'll catch on, the old Danny special. We could apply that to lots of things, but we might leave it at the Captivate Secret Hacks. But we have got a few people trickling in, so welcome. Manuel Lopez, morning team. Thanks for hosting these sessions. You're very welcome indeed. Ghibli G, hello. A very simple
nice big
hello.
Heart. Nice big heart there. Kimberly's got on display there.
Yeah. Hello, Kimberly. Welcome. We normally just leave it a few minutes as people trickle in the first few minutes, and then we will crack on. While we're waiting for people to come in, dude, how's your podcasting life been at the moment? All good?
It's been busy, mate. I did. I sort of what's the word? Put out to pasture one of my shows because I had too many podcasts on the go. I like experimenting, just trying different things and what have you, but there was too many that was kind of eaten in to my main podcast. So I've kind of put that one of them anyway, to pasture and really focus on the one I'm doing now. And it's showing in the old results as well, like the old analytics are going up, and doing some of the stuff that we're going to be talking about today has helped out over the last couple of months as well, which is nice. So there's a nice little, empirical advice, whatever. That's the wrong word altogether, not advice. But good, mate. How about you?
Cool. Yeah, just podcast stuff's rolling on nicely for me at the moment. I'm looking into a few AI tools at the moment. It's something that I've kind of just purposely put on the back burner, just because, in all honesty, I've not found a need to dive into it as yet, because not to brag or anything, but people like you and I, we kind of got our workflow nailed really well, which is why we're able to rock and roll with our podcast efficiencies and that sort of thing quite easily. So, and that's not me blowing my own trumpet. So, in terms of the AI stuff, I'm looking at
I like that.
Some AI
That's
stuff,
what I'm going to call it from now on. I'm going to use like pirate robots and call them AI tools.
I've been looking at how to incorporate that more into sort of content creation and social media promotion, rather than AI, please tell me what I should podcast about this week. So instead of that,
and there's so many tools at the minute. Like I think I popped it in the team Slack on the Captivate Slack channel, one of the channels anyway. The amount of tools that seem to be springing up from nowhere over the last sort of 60, maybe 90 days. I know there's been a few tools out for a while, but just recently it's just exploding.
Yes. Yeah. It's been a steady incline of companies and SaaS services offering all sorts of AI. And the problem is, it's a bit like the it's a bit of a tangent, of course, but it's a bit like the old anything that's online that catches on, where you see like a movement of things within an industry. You often have that big explosion of companies all offering very similar things, but they're all calling it slightly different. And so that's why I've not dived into it too much, because it's a bit of a minefield to navigate through all that stuff at the minute. But yeah, I found a couple of tools which look reasonably interesting. So yeah, just looking at that stuff at the moment. But yeah, podcast stuff, all healthy. Yeah.
Well, look out for that. I'll look out for your tips and advice in the old Slack. So we've just seen some more people coming. I'm just going to bring them up. If you're just arriving, let us know where you're from. Say hi in the comments. Let us know where you're about. And obviously we'll shout out. My podcast guys here, Circle 270 Media. Good morning to all. Good morning to you. I think it's afternoon for you, Gary, right? It's like, what is it, 4:06 p.m. where you are?
Yes, yep, 4 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time for me.
And here's a likely character.
Here we go. Sarah's here. Here we go.
Bloody Sarah. Sarah's our SEO manager at Captivate and does a lot of these as well, like the live growth labs webinars. So look out for these. We got Traveling Ship. I like that cool name. Hi, y'all. And that's a great background. I'm loving the background of that picture there. That looks like a
good name as well. Very good.
Yeah,
name.
Awesome name.
Yeah.
We got David. Hi, David. Good to see you again, buddy. He's in Las Vegas. Or is it Las Vegas? Las Vegas? Oh, yeah, I'm not going to say this. Worcester. We're Worcestershire shot. Damn it. I got picked up already. Worcester. I'm going to stop there.
You set yourself up for that one, mate. Yeah. What's your sister sauce?
That's the one. Worcestershire sauce. Dave's in from Texas. Dave Brown. That's a great last name, Dave. Liking it a lot.
Yeah.
Liking it.
Not a common name, suppose.
No, not a common name. Not unlike a lot, which is all over the bloody place.
Yeah, there's not a lot of them.
Oh, boom, boom, boom. I've got Rachel. Hi, Rachel, in from sunny Spain. I could do with some sun here today. It was 1 degree when I woke up this morning, so just over freezing point. So not great. I'm over in Canada. Who else we got? We got Dog Speak. I like it. Dog Speak, excited to be here. Hi, Dog Speak. Nice to see you. Nashville, Tennessee. And Kimberly. Kimberly's over in California. And we got New York for Traveling Ship.
NYC, my fave city. Yeah.
New York. There we go. And we got Real Ads. You're welcome, Ray. Toronto, you're not too far from me then. I'm about 2.5, maybe 3 hours north of you, up on the old 400 highway, and then on a Highway 11. So not too far from you.
Toronto.
Toronto.
Yeah.
And then Paula. Oh, it's that's Sarah. We don't really worry about Sarah.
Won't worry about Sarah at the minute.
No.
Yeah. You know what? Yeah. Who's this? Retromade. Oh, you guys were here before from Denver.
Yep.
Welcome.
And love the name. Retromade.
Retromadeage.
And you're very welcome. Guys, glad to be of help. That's awesome. And we got a couple more coming in, which is awesome. We've got Keith. How the clocks changed during the south of UK GMT? No, I think when did the clocks change for you, Gary? I think it's like later this month for us.
It's not until October for us, yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So I think we might, because this is what messes me up with our morning meetings. I go back before you, so I catch up an hour, then I lose an hour when you catch up, and it's weird. It's all messed up. It's not far from Port Parry, actually. It's Port Sydney, so in between Huntsville and Bracebridge, if you know the Muskoka area. So not too far.
Cool. Very cool.
Okay.
We'll leave this another minute for people to trickle in, and then we'll hand over to you, buddy.
No worries. And a Quilter's Life. Yeah, we caught up with you guys at the podcast movement, and I know Sarah spent a lot of time with you, which is awesome. So glad to hear that's helping you out with the SEO. But we give Sarah a hard time, but when it comes to SEO, she's very knowledgeable. So we bow down to that for sure.
Yes, yeah, the old SEO skills from Sarah, solid. Yeah, solid. Okie dokie. We are going to crack on and dive into all of the linky goodness. The linky goodness that Dan is going to go through. What we'll do is, as Dan is going through this, if you have any questions for Danny, just hop into the comments and start with the word question, and then I'll flag it up. And then when Danny's finished, we'll run through a little Q&A at the end, and we can answer your questions on that stuff and get you up to speed on all linky goodness. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Danny and over to you, buddy. Good luck.
Okay, oh, good luck. That's very ominous. Good luck, he says.
Best of luck.
Cheers, mate. Thank you. Alrighty, so Gary's still here. We just want to wait for him to go away because there he goes. So as Gary mentions, thanks for joining us today. Like we normally do with these secret hacks live streams, it's really about helping you get to know some more of the dashboard features, and either some that you might not have been aware of that you could use, or maybe some of the stuff that you can do with them that you weren't aware of that you could use. So that's what we're basically going to be doing today. And as Gary mentions, today is going to be link analysis and how that ties into your Captivate site. If you use the Captivate site option, the free Captivate site, if you use our single promo link, if you use our marketing links and calls to action, and all cool features like that. And obviously Amy, which is our dynamic in-house dynamic content platform. And there's some cool features, there's some cool things you can do with link analysis and really look at the data that's coming through for that really helps you optimize your podcast. And I've been really going heavy on the link analysis in the last couple of months with my most recent podcast that I started last December, I think. And I can see by doing that and what we're going to go through today, it's really helped with new followers, downloads, etc., which is always good. If you're a podcast, it's always good to get these extra numbers and getting up there. So that's what we're going to go through today. As Gary mentions, if you do have any questions, as you can see at the bottom of the little screen there, just drop them in the comment section. Put question at the front. Gary will pick it up, and we'll jump into the live Q&A within about 20, maybe about 30 minutes time or so, depending on how we go with the live stream. Maybe a little bit less, because we're really focusing on just one main area today. So I'm going to start sharing my screen. It might go a little bit wonky and psychedelic for a bit until I switch over to the single tab. So let me just do that now for you. Let's go to tab. Okay, that's awesome. So you should now be seeing the dashboard, the Captivate dashboard with the 1 Minute Podcast Tips show up on the screen. And if you can see that, that's great. That means my screen is sharing properly. So that's all good. So basically, with the link analysis, you'll find that down in your analytics section. So where you see insights. And this is a really cool way to understand what's happening with like marketing links that you may be using and creating within Captivate, but also your single prompt page, and as I mentioned, your Amy content. So whether that's sponsor messages, advertisements, even your own internal trailer ads or trailer swaps, etc. for your show and episodes, this is where you'll get that detail for link analysis. So I'll jump into that shortly, but there's a few areas that you can really use the link analysis. So one of the easiest ways is on your single promo link, and the single promo link is Captivate's option of where we'll give you a landing page you can create, and you can use that to send potential listeners and followers to and highlight the podcast apps that your podcast is available on. Now, you can have as many as you want on here or as few as you want. It's a really nice way to make it super simple for your listeners or potential listeners to follow your podcast on their preferred apps. Where link analysis comes into effect on a single promo link is really optimizing which apps you show on there to make it super simple and not too cluttered for listeners to actually follow the show. The other area you can use it in is under your Amy setting. So if you look at the content library, sorry about that. If you go to content library and look at your Amy files, you can see here I've got a bunch of Amy files that I've uploaded, and I've got a couple of default ones. But the link analysis can really help you understand which Amy files are being clicked on or visited the most or the more effective. So that can help you again with your sponsors, or even just with your own internal analysis to really help your show grow and know where to use Amy, how to use it, and whether you make the call to action for sponsors, trailer swaps, etc. in the episode audio, or if you add the link to your episode show notes, for example, to see which one's the more effective for that. So again, really cool features on the link analysis. So the first thing you do to really use the link analysis is we're going to look at attribution links. And attribution links are basically short links that you can use for tracking marketing campaigns for your podcast, for, again, going back to sponsors, ads, newsletter signups, anything like that. You can create dedicated short links. If you do affiliate programs, for example, you can use dedicated short links and campaign tracking links, and we will track these for you and give you information about which ones are getting the most clicks. So you would go down to attribution links, which is down here in your promotion section on your Captivate dashboard. You'll see right at the top here. So what I've done is I've created a bunch of attribution links. And the great thing with attribution links is they allow you to get really long custom, like really long domains and make it super short and super easy to promote, whether that's as an audio snippet in your podcast episode or on your podcast, your episode show notes. So you can see here, I've got, for example, submit to all the podcast tips, podcast apps even. The target URL is a page on Pod News, which is an industry publication that shows you all the apps you can submit your podcast to. Captivate will distribute you to all the main players, as well as the directories that feed off of Apple Podcasts, for example, and some other ones. But there's also a bunch of smaller apps and smaller platforms and lesser known ones that you can still submit your podcast to manually, and that just makes sure that your podcast is on pretty much every app that's out there, making it easier for podcast listeners to follow your show. You can never really tell, someone might use a really obscure app, and if you don't have that as an option, they can't follow your show on your app. So I always recommend have your podcast in as many places as possible and make it super easy for listeners to follow your show. So Pod News has an article that shows you all the podcast directories. Now, if I'm recording my episode, and let's say I was working with Pod News as a sponsor, and they wanted me to highlight this actual URL here, that'd be really hard and not super effective for me to say, hey, if you want to submit your podcast to every single podcast app out there, go to podnews.net/article/all-the-blah blah. It's a long piece of audio, and no one is going to remember that if they're listening to your podcast in the car or on their phone or on headphones, etc. Now, obviously, you can link to that in your episode show notes, and that makes it a nice, super clean link. But not everybody reads show notes, especially, like I said, if you're driving in the car or you're at the gym listening while you work out or anything like that, where you're not physically looking at the show notes section of a podcast episode, you wouldn't see this link or you wouldn't click on it. So what you want to do is make it really simple to create an attribution link that you can see, that's easy to see on your episode, and people can either type that in or remember it for later. If you continue to use it in multiple episodes, that's where the brand recall comes in, and people start remembering that call to action that you're putting out. So they'll then go to that tab later. So instead of having this big, huge URL here, I would just say something like, I've created an attribution link, and the label is submit to all podcast apps. It's a general type of link. I've got a choice of general, affiliate, or donation, just to help you keep, on the back end, which kind of links you've got in use and which ones are working. And I've made the short URL submit. So because I use a custom domain for my podcast, the site is 1minutepodcasttips.com, and then I've got /submit. So that's a really easy thing to say in a podcast episode. If you're interested if you want to get your podcast on every single podcast app out there, go to 1minutepodcasttips.com /submit. It's there and it's simple, and you'll see the same here. I've got Boomcaster, which is a remote recording platform, got an affiliate program there. So I've got remote. So again, my main domain, then /remote. And I go down and get reviews, for example. Canva, I was doing I did an episode recently about doing custom show art and how Canva's got a bunch of templates you can choose from. So I've got like a little Canva template there as well. So you can see that I've got some custom domain, I've got attribution links already set up. Now the cool thing with this is, as you mentioned, you can either use these as audio attribution links or calls to action, or in your show notes. And this is where you can do like a little bit A/B testing and see which ones work the best. Are the calls to action that you're mentioning in your episode getting more traction than the linked ones that are in your show notes? So for example, if I go to give you an example here, on the single promo link, you'll see that single promo link is always straightforward. Captivate gives you a default URL. So whether that's a Captivate URL or you've got a custom domain set up, you'll see that it's got listen. Well, /listen is the main URL that comes with every single promo page. But if I wanted to check that out and really sort of see what that would do, if I want to check that out and sort of A/B test that, I could go to say, okay, I want to create an attribution link that says 1minutepodcasttips.com /follow. It links to the same page, so it would link to the same single promo page. But now I've got follow in my episode audio, for example, and then I've got the listen one in the show notes. So I've got two different domains going to the same URL. And that allows me to start tracking which one's most effective. So these are the attribution links. They come in all plans, obviously, and you just go and create them. It helps if you've got a custom domain because it makes it really simple for episode audio, and you don't have to be using the free Captivate site to use a custom domain. You can buy a custom domain, point it to Captivate, and when you use the custom domain settings, you'll go to domain name here. You'll see here that I've got my custom domain enabled, and then that's my custom domain here. So you don't actually have to use the free Captivate site. It's an awesome site feature, but you don't have to use it. You can buy a custom domain, and that makes it really easy to see the domain in your episode audio. So if I look at my link analysis, for example, let's go back up. Link analysis I showed you. You can see I've got two options here, and we'll look at the promotional links shortly. But looking at the one for link analysis, which is obviously we're looking at the attribution links, you can see here, this gives me the last 28 days, for example. And you can see which ones have got the most clicks. So I had a big spike. I did a big promo on the 16th of September, so last week, I guess, where I talked about the follow page, how to easily follow the podcast. And you can see here that the label, the most popular one was support 1 minute podcast tips. So that's for my tips page, which I have set up, or my membership page, which Captivate offers you. Then it's got share the show, then the Canva one, Boomcaster that I mentioned, review the show, Substack, which was my newsletter, etc. So you can see here that the support one was really effective. So that's a great way for me to look at that time range and see what I did in my analytics. Did I include it in certain episode calls to action? Did I share it on social media, etc.? Where did these clicks come from? So it's a nice way to sort of tie in with your social media sharing, as well as any website, Google Analytics that you have set up as well, to see what happened once people turned up. And I can then go over to my support page, like my tips page and membership page, and see how many of these clicks turned into either tips or members, new members. And I know this week I got a new member for the show. So that was like, it shows that it works, from getting people to sign up. So this is a great way to look at the attribution links with the link analysis. The other way is Amy. I'd mentioned Amy, our dynamic platform. And Amy, obviously, you can use for pre-roll, which is before your episode audio. You can add mid-roll, which is anywhere inside your episode, so to speak. And then post-roll, which is an ad or sponsor message or whatever message it is at the end of every episode. But the cool thing is when you're creating Amy files, you have an option that you may not use at the moment. And I use it all the time for link analysis reasons. So I'm just going to show you what that looks like. So if I go to my content library, and as I mentioned earlier, I've got a bunch of Amy files already uploaded. I've got a couple that are default. So I've got the podcast tips reco outro. So that's my recommendation. It's my call to action at the end of every episode. And then intro 2023 new. I just uploaded that 2 weeks ago, I think, with this new one. So it's a new 16th of September, a week ago, basically. So I've got these set as my default. So that's my default pre-roll and default post-roll. Now, because my episodes are basically between 1 and 2 minutes, hence the name of the show, I don't really worry about a mid-roll. But what's cool with Amy is if I go to the intro new, this shows me obviously where all the episodes are. Where that Amy file is being displayed at the moment. So basically, it's all my episodes except the bonus ones. However, if I go to the edit feature, and this is the screen that you'll see when you're either uploading a new Amy file or editing an existing one. So basically, you always have your dynamic content. So you have your audio file here, the label. So it's easy for you to recognize it behind, in your dashboard. What type is it? Is it an internal ad? Is it a third-party sponsor? Or is it a trailer swap? Again, really for your admin and keeping track of what's doing what. But you'll notice down here, you've got a show notes section and an attribution link section. The show notes section allows you to add text automatically to every single episode that Amy file is assigned to. And the show notes will then obviously go out to all the podcast apps. And if people are reading them, they can click on the show notes. But what you've got here, you've got the show notes title and the show notes blurb. So title here, fan of the show. If so, you can support with a one-off tip and say thanks to Danny, blah, blah, blah. But you'll see here that I've got an attribution link. And I basically created an attribution link for my public membership page or public tips page. And if I signed that here, I've got a whole bunch of links. You can see that I can choose any of the attribution links that I've already created or none at all. But I've got support for this one. So I wouldn't click update. But when you're creating a new piece of Amy file or you're uploading one, make sure that you fill the section in and start using attribution links. And the reason for that is simple. When you're on the actual show notes, so if I go to the episode, let's go to the latest episode here. If I go down the show notes, you can see here that for my content library, so let's go back to the content library quickly and the Amy files. As I mentioned, I've got the default pre-roll and the default outro or post-roll, and that's on every single episode. If I look at my website on the show notes, this gets added all the time to every single podcast every single podcast episode. When I publish a new episode, because I'm using attribution links and I've got Amy files attached to this episode, these will be added automatically. And you can see here that will link to my tips page, and that will link to the single promo link, except this is now on the share link that I mentioned earlier. So on my show notes page, I've got the /share domain. And when I will say the call to action in my episode, I might say something along the lines of go to 1minutepodcasttips.com/listen. That way I'm starting to build up A/B testing that allows me to see what one is getting the more clicks. Is it the one that I say in the episode, or is it the link that I've added in my show notes? And that gets to give you an idea, are show notes effective? If not, how can you make them more effective? Do you need to bring your call to action further up the page as opposed to at the bottom where I've currently got them? So again, it's a really cool way to use Amy to start to identify what's working, what's not working. And again, because we track all of these clicks, whether that's someone typing it directly into the browser tab or someone clicking on the link that's on the show notes, because we track all that, you can start to share that with potential advertisers or sponsors that show every episode or every month I get X amount of clicks on this call to action. This is a prime call to action. This is a prime ad spot for you. Let's work together. So it's a nice way to sort of showcase A, your calls to action are working, B, how effective they are, and C, the value that can bring to sponsors and advertisers, or even other podcasters. Like I mentioned, if you want to do trailer swaps, for example, or a podcaster wants to buy an ad slot for their new season on your show, because they're kind of complementary podcasts. So it's a really nice way from the link analysis on the attribution links and Amy files to really see what's working and optimize your offerings and your show notes and your calls to action on every single episode. Now, the other feature, as I mentioned, is the single promo link. And Captivate gives you a single promo link on every single podcast. We give you obviously a free website, but we give you a single promo link that makes it super easy for you to share either on social media, a newsletter, listeners, etc., or potential listeners. A nice, simple way to go and go to a simple landing page and choose a podcast app to listen to your podcast on. But the cool thing is we also track the clicks on a single promo link. So if you go down to the promotion section again in your Captivate dashboard, and that's not right, go to your marketing links section of your Captivate dashboard, which is under promotion. Sorry, I'm getting a little bit lost there. So you go to the single promo link. You can see here, because I'm using a custom domain, my custom domain automatically populates with the listen as my URL for the single promo link. If it's a standard default Captivate, it might say something like showname.captivate.fm/listen. So it's great for linking in your show notes. It might be a little bit more of a mouthful if you're doing it as an audio call to action or an audio, drop. So this is where it's like really good to have a custom domain and point that back over to us at Captivate. Makes it nice and simple for you to have the single promo link and say it on your podcast. But you can see here, I've got these ones highlighted at the moment. So you can see I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 podcast apps and my RSS feed, because a lot of people still prefer grabbing the RSS link and adding it to their own podcast app. Like I say, could be one of the smaller apps that we don't, that don't normally get distributed to by your podcast host, but it's still out there. And then I've got more apps here. And what I do with the more apps is that goes back to what I mentioned earlier with the Pod News page. So if I click on more apps, it would take me over to Pod News. You can see my list of Pod News, and then there's all the apps that you can then follow the show on. So you can see Moon FM, for example. I've never actually heard of Moon FM. Could be a new one, could be just one that I haven't heard of. But Moon FM, so that's an option. And users or listeners may use Moon FM. And if you're not on Moon FM, they can't listen to your podcast. It's always good just to have a look at these apps and make sure that your podcast is actually on them. But anyway, like I mentioned, so I've got the More Apps feature there. It's a nice way to A, keep the single promo page less cluttered, and B, ensure that people can still click through. If you choose, like I've got 6 here plus my RSS feed, if one of the apps a potential listener is on is not listed here, they might bounce. So that's why I always have a More Apps feature. And I do recommend having this on your single promo page. And it doesn't have to link to the Pod News one. There's like other options that you can check out. You might want to send it to a landing page on your own website with a bunch of podcast apps that you recommend listening to, for example. But the cool thing with this is when you're looking at your link analysis. So I've got my single promo link. When I'm looking at the link analysis, I will go over to promotional links. So let's just jump over there now. And the promotional links tracks the visits and impressions, etc., to both your listen page and your monetization page, so your membership or tips page on Captivate. We create a free public supporters page for you that you can share with listeners so they can come and support the show either with a one-off tip or become a monthly member to a membership tier that you have. So we'll show you how many impressions and unique impressions that your pages will get based on your clicks. So you can see here, you've got the default last 28 days, but we also have last 7 days, last 60, last 90, last calendar month, all time or custom if you want to do like a custom report. So maybe you would want to do Q1 versus Q2. Did you see more growth in Q2 over Q1 when it came to your listener page clicks? But what this will tell you is you can see here that you've got impressions, unique impressions, monetization impressions, and unique monetization impressions. But just below that, you've got the directory link clicks. So this will tell you of the people that landed on your single promo page, these are the apps that people clicked on. So if I go down to total clicks here, and let's start having a look, you can see, for example, that Spotify was, for the last 28 days anyway, that's the last 28 days. So you can see that Spotify was the lead app, then Google Podcast, then as I mentioned, people preferred the RSS feed, adding it to their own podcast, then Apple Podcasts, Pocket Casts, Amazon's like just creeping in there, and then Stitcher. Obviously Stitcher closed down, so nobody's clicking on that anymore because I removed that from the single promo page. But based on this, I can see that the top 4 are Spotify, Google, RSS, and Apple. But Pocket Cast is also there as well. So what that allows me to do, if I wanted to really go by the data and the click preference of listeners that are coming to my single promo page, I could look at that and say, okay, I'm going to actually move this and make Spotify, Google, Apple, and Pocket Casts the 4 that I have on here. So I'm just going to hop back to my single promo link page. So let's go to marketing links, go to single promo links, and I'm going to take off Overcast, and I'm going to take off Good Pods for now, for example. And let's just save changes. So I've done that. And now what that will do is that will take these podcast apps off the single promo page. And as you can see, makes it really focused on the 4 apps I know I'm getting clicks on, as well as my RSS feed, and making sure that I've got my More Apps feature ready for people to check out other apps it's on. And you can do this for as often as you want. It's always a good idea to look at the data that we're providing you and use that to your advantage to optimize the experience for your listeners. So it's pointless for me to show, for example, let's go here. So like I say, it's got Amazon Music. It's only got 2 there, so I might not want to show Amazon Music at the moment because the potential listeners are showing that these are the apps that they're clicking on. So again, it's making it super focused because when it comes to calls to action and what you're trying to have your listeners do, the less you have, the more focused it can be and the less potential for confusion. And if you have too many options for clicking on this single promo link page, that's where it can sort of get confusing. It might look super busy. If they're on mobile, for example, they don't want to be scrolling to try find their favorite app. So it makes it really easy to optimize your listening page and just go through that once a month or every 60 days or whatever, and just keep tweaking the apps based on what your listeners are telling you. And that way you're really sort of doubling down on the growth of your podcast based on your podcast listener preferences. And if you're concentrating on the growth and you're concentrating on the apps and what your listeners are actually telling you, Again, that's really helping you to optimize the page. The same with your calls to action, as mentioned. If you're having a call to action as a pre-roll, mid-roll, or post-roll within your Captivate dashboard, when it comes to Amy, keep it really simple. If you have a call to action on your episode audio, make sure that you're not overloading multiple calls to action for your listener. So you've got like 3 or 4 or 5 different calls to action in the same episode, because now I don't know which one to listen to. So again, the link analysis is really, really good at helping you optimize that. And again, this can tie back to your Amy files or your attribution links. I've got, as I mentioned, I've got the default link suffix from Captivate, but I also use the follow suffix that I created as an attribution link. And I can start to see which one got the most clicks, tie that back to the data in the directory clicks, and that tells me, okay, of the show notes ones that came through, only 3 clicked on the app, but of the ones that came through on my audio call to action, 11 clicked on the app, for example. Really nice way to get the information and see exactly how your podcast is performing. And as you can see, the show is like less than a year old, and I didn't do a lot. I was bad. I didn't do a lot of marketing for the show when it first launched. So you can see here, if I look at my last 12 months, I got a decent launch, and it sort of trickled off. I wasn't doing anything. I was maybe publishing an episode and just sharing it once on social, which is like a huge no-no. But at the time, I was focusing more on another podcast that I've since sunsetted. So that one of the reasons I sunsetted it was so I could focus more on this podcast. As I mentioned to Gary in the start of the webinar, within the last couple of months, I've really started locked down using link analysis, identifying which apps are being clicked on my single promo page, which Amy files and which additions, which dynamic show notes are getting clicked on, which calls to action are being actioned. And that's really helped me from like July, which was obviously a quiet month. It's the summer, it's normally quiet. But last month, when I first started doing really solid marketing and looking at the data that I've got for the show, it was a great month, the best month since I launched the podcast. And this month, as I've continued to do that and continue to tweak and optimize my single promo link, as well as the analytics and what that's telling me, I've bypassed last month, and I'm on a good track to maybe go over 500 for this month, which it's not a huge number, but it's certainly better than what it was back in May or April. So it's a really cool way to really understand what your data is telling you, what your listeners are telling you, and help you optimize your podcast. And I think that's it. That's me covered it with the link analysis. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen for now, and let's see Gary coming back in.
Hello. Cool stuff there, dude. Very cool stuff. So 2 summary points there, and 2 things that I thought were very cool. Apart from the details, of course, and the fundamentals of setting up the attribution links themselves and setting up your custom domain and whatnot. I think the first thing is to not let those things go stale. And because you've probably done this before. I'm certainly guilty of it with one of my podcasts, is that I'll set up attribution links and I'll get that stuff rocking and rolling, and then I just won't look at it. Months and months will go past, and then you just won't look, and then you'll go back to it and you'll think, Jesus, I should have had a look at this stuff and tweaked how that stuff was going through. So that's the first thing, is to, once you've got those things in place, put something in your calendar like a recurring event. So that's what I've tended to do in the last, 2 or 3 months, is to just block out half an hour just at the end of each week, on a Sunday evening or a Saturday morning, whatever it is, just to not do anything specifically, but just to analyze, just summarize what's going on, have a look, as Danny said, just pay attention to your listeners' clicks and views and where they're coming from, what they're clicking on, and just make little tweaks here and there. Most of the time, it's as simple as just making some small tweaks that will get you, a jump up in your subscriber count or your listener count, like unique downloads, or maybe another couple of members into your membership plans or something like that. So that's as Danny said, and some great details that Danny went into to actually get this stuff set up. But that was the first takeaways is to not forget about it. Go in and do that stuff. And the second thing, we had some questions and I haven't starred them just because I was able to answer them just in the chat. But we had a few people say, how do I find out about this particular feature that Danny spoke about, which is maybe the custom domain bit or AMI itself? If you've got any questions that are not sort of mega deep dive technical stuff, you can find a load of information on this stuff over on our help center. So if you go over to captivate.fm and then in the nav at the top, if you then hover under resources and go to help center, we've got tons and tons of articles and primers and technical advice and everything on all of that stuff. So if you're ever stuck or you're going through one of these webinars and one of us has said something, you're like, what does that mean? Just hop over there. Chances are there'll be a nice article that one of these guys have put together, probably Danny, that has put together.
A Danny special.
A Danny special indeed. And you can read all the basics and everything that will get you most of the way there. And then if you're still having some technical gremlins going on, then you can contact our support. We'll sort you out from there. But very cool, Danny, the linky goodness. And I'm glad your podcast is doing well. I could see from the chart that you showed in the last minute or so that when you started to focus a lot more on the marketing and whatnot, your listens have gone up and everything. So that's exactly what we want to see, right? The trend, we want to see it go up.
Exactly. And like I say, I've been bad because obviously, we're here to help you grow your show. And I did not do that on my own podcast. I was concentrating on helping you guys, which is awesome, obviously. And then the podcast that I sunsetted. But yeah, like you say, even just making little tweaks based on what the data is telling you, which is like data is everything. that helps you, really, get to grow on your show and making sure that your listeners are looked after. So yeah, that I'm hoping that, I can build on that and go for the 1,000 by the end of the year. We'll see.
Yeah, it will happen, dude. It will happen for sure. Okie dokie. Right. Let's.
I think we've got 3 questions in there.
I was going to say, let me just turn this up for a second. Let's have a look at some of these questions. We had a few in here. So the first one is from Keith Lewis. Do you have to have the domain connected into Captivate for those short URLs to work?
You don't have to have, if it's a custom domain, you don't have to. Captivate will provide you with a default URL, which is normally showname.captivate.fm. That would be your URL. But when it comes to mentioning that on your episode audio, that's a little bit longer than obviously say keith.live / whatever the suffix is. So /support / listen, etc. So it's a nice way to have a custom domain and make that nice and short or really tied to your show. And just point that to us. It's just a really nice way to make it super simple for your episode audio as opposed to your show notes links. But we'll give you a default URL, but a short one, a real short one, that'd be a custom domain.
Indeedy, yes. So I hope that answers the question there, Keith. Who else did we have in? Michael Hurst says, am I to understand that I can create an attribution link and implement it through AMI across all of my episodes?
Yes, indeed. So you would create the attribution link that you want to have. So whether that points to an affiliate, email newsletter, whatever that's gone, create that as standard and then assign that to an AMI file, either if you've uploaded it already or a new one. And like I mentioned, go down to the bottom part of that AMI file where it says show notes, title and description and attribution link, and make sure all these you've got the blurb in and it's got the attribution link that you want to use. And then you can use our bulk ad editor to either add it across your whole back catalogue for either pre-roll, post-roll, or mid-roll. So yeah, you can put across all your past episodes, especially, what are you up to now, Michael? You're still at 300 or you're at 305 now, 304, but all of them, you can add it to all of them for sure.
Yeah, and that's a really cool, that was one of the things that when we were designing AMI and so on, especially the bulk editor stuff, is to be able to allow people to go and retroactively update all of their library and stuff with all of these AMI files. So so Michael, again, I hope that answered your question, but also for 314. Wow. So yeah, but the answer is an absolute yes. Hop in there, add your attribution link, and then you can do that across all of your episodes. Right. Next one is from Manuel Lopez. Do you have a session on getting started with AMI? Is there a good resource that you can recommend? So Danny, I've already popped a link over for Manuel Manuel in the chat that goes over the Q&A and the primer and stuff for Amy. So yeah, as I mentioned earlier, if you head over to the help center over at captivate.fm, it's got everything you need to know about Amy there. So it gets your head into what Amy is, what it isn't, how you can use it to just get the basics happening, so your pre and post roll. But then if you want to, there are links there that will dive into things like your mid rolls and the ad painter and the bulk editor, and a couple of little strategy things as well about how to use that to cross promote some of your other podcasts, etc. So yeah,
we've also got the playlist. So if you're on our YouTube channel at the moment, if you look at the playlist tab on the channel, we've got a whole bunch of playlists there, and there's an Amy playlist there that's got the reveal that Mark did 2 years ago, I think. Also overviews, walkthroughs, that kind of stuff. So there's a whole bunch of stuff there for you as well.
Indeedy. Yes. Okay. That was the questions that we had through. We'll just give it a couple minutes because we're ahead on time, which is unlike Danny. I will give you a bit of insight there, a bit of Captivate behind the scenes. It's unlike Danny to finish up early. So we'll just give it a couple more minutes.
You rescued that there because I thought it was going like a little insult direction, and you kind of rescued it by saying first in, last out, mate, innit?
Not at all, mate. Not at all. But we'll keep this going for a couple of minutes. Just in case anyone else has any other questions, etc. Danny, in terms of the link analysis stuff that you went through, is there anything out, because you showed a few different things there, for a newbie podcaster, somebody that's just signed up to Captivate yesterday or today, out of those things, what would you say is the must-have thing to go and do ASAP?
Probably get your podcast submitted to all the directories. So you've got the links to your show on these directories, and then get your single promo page live and add the apps that you want to add to that page and start driving people to that page. Because as I showed you, we'll track all the clicks and which apps are being clicked. So it'll give you an immediate idea what your most popular apps. But people can't listen to your show if they can't find it. So get your podcast published, get it distributed, and then make it super easy for them to follow your podcast using a single promo link.
Good shout. Yes. A quick follow-up on that, actually. Somebody asked me about this the other day, and they said, I've got everything, I'm signed up, ready to go. I've tried to set up my distribution to Apple and Spotify, etc., but it won't let me do that. So you have to have at least one episode published before you can set up your distribution to all those outlets and directories and so on. So very quickly, this is good practice anyway, but if you haven't got your episodes ready to rock and roll yet, and but you want to get your directory links sorted out first, you can get yourself a real basic trailer sorted out. And if you've listened to other podcasts before and you've listened to their trailers and you thought, bloody hell, that's quite intricate and it sounds very produced and everything, because a lot of good podcast trailers will have snippets and clips from some of their most popular episodes, and they'll put music in there and possibly sound effects, everything. It sounds very cool. You don't need to do that to begin with. What you can do is just do an introductory episode that lasts 30 seconds. That's all it needs to be. Just introducing yourself or your co-hosts, what your podcast is about, when people can expect your content, etc. Get that out as a basic trailer to begin with, because you can always replace that trailer later on. So when you're 50, 100, 314 episodes in, you can always just replace that trailer episode with a much more detailed, in-depth, livelier, sort of thing if you want to. But yeah, get just an introductory episode done. Call it a trailer if you like. It's technically a trailer. Get that up there. And then, as Danny said, you can then rock and roll with all your directory links and your single promo and so on. Yeah.
Funnily enough, I updated my trailer at the weekend.
Nice.
I just made it a little bit more punchy, because the episodes are really short anyway, so I don't want a trailer to be overpowering the episodes. And I added the new tagline. So that, it's like Gary says, it's super easy. All you need to do is just replace the audio, and that will ensure that you don't lose any analytics or anything for your trailer to start with, and a great way to get your show live and approved on Apple, Spotify, etc.
Indeedy. Okay. So we have no more questions in. We have no more comments.
I think we're good, mate. Yeah.
I think we are good. So, Danny, thank you very much as always, buddy. It's been mega interesting as always.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me, I guess, on our channel.
On our channel, yeah. And until next time for the old Captivate Hack session, take care of yourselves. We'll see you next time. See you later. Bye.